What's up guys, Kevin Cage here with another crypto update. Let's dive right into today's video. And apologies in advance if my voice comes in and out. Pro tip, don't get a pulmonary embolism and damage your lungs. So I was looking at the crypto fear and greed index today, and this is crazy. This is the lowest I've ever seen it in history at 5. For today, February 23rd, extreme fear. Now when we scroll down and we just look at the max to look at all the historical data of this crypto fear and greed index, looking at the lows. So we can see back in August of 2019, we are at 11. Then we go to March 2020, we are bouncing between, we'll say 16 to as low as 9. We can move over here to June of 2022, 14, even 9. And now today, the lowest that we've ever been, 5. That's crazy. Now looking at the Bitcoin monthly price chart, we can see that we obviously crashed from 126,000 all the way down to 60K. We have 5 days until this monthly candle closes. We're back at the 2024 levels, but we've yet to close the candle body below the 2021 highs. So as far as I'm concerned, it just looks like a big back test to the 2021 highs. Not financial advice, believe whatever you want. I don't believe we go into a multi-year bear market from here. That makes absolutely no sense. Now, could we see some crazy flash wicks before a big V up? Absolutely, but I don't buy that we're going to be in a multi-year bear market like the usual cycles. I'm still waiting for Bitcoin monthly RSI to absolutely rip like the previous 3 cycles, along with Bitcoin dominance crashing out of nowhere and surprising everybody. Because we know according to history, when Bitcoin dominance crashed in 2017 and 2021, as Bitcoin was making higher highs, we exploded for alts. And just looking at the monthly RSI and the overall setup, I believe that we get a crash out of nowhere. The question is when? Is it going to be in 2 months or is it going to be in 8 months? So my overall belief for anybody that cares is I don't believe that Bitcoin sees a multi-year bear market. Even if we get some crazy flash wicks to the downside, I believe it's going to be short-lived and we do a big V up. As I've shared many times with Bitcoin side by side with the S&P 500 and even gold. And if you're going to do anything today for today's video, please pull up this ticker on TradingView. This is USBCOI. So this is the ISM index, and this is basically a speedometer or just a fancy way of measuring if the economy is growing. And big shout out to my buddy Chris the other day for hopping on and showing me some really interesting looks. What I will say is if you are tracking this in TradingView, USBCOI, if we get past this 52 up to like 58, 60, get excited. We know what happened back in March 2020. We can see this huge V up and a massive bull run. We've already gone over the Fed balance sheet overall when they added nearly $5 trillion to the balance sheet last time, and we've yet to get that big rise or expansion. Now we know they officially stopped quantitative tightening back in December, and that is a step closer to expansion. And since December, the Federal Reserve also started buying up $40 billion in short-term US Treasury bills every single month. So this is known as RMPs, or Reserve Management Purchases. And this isn't traditional quantitative easing. The point being is if we are going to see some type of QE, they're going to rebrand it. It's not going to be the same thing. But just remember the phases of QE when Bitcoin was born and the biggest phase of quantitative easing we ever saw, back in March 2020. And that's exactly when the Fed injected almost $5 trillion in liquidity. So related to this ISM Purchasing Managers Index here, this is basically what Raoul Pal's been looking at all along. And this can help explain why the 4-year cycle might be broken. In the traditional 4-year cycle, it's never been about the Bitcoin halving where rewards get cut in half, blah blah blah. It's about global liquidity. And what Raoul's really highlighting is this shift from 4 years to a longer cycle. Instead of 4 years, it could be 5.5 years. Because a few years ago, the US Treasury changed its strategy, and instead of taking out loans that they had to pay back or renew every 4 years, they extended them to roughly 5.4 years, all to lock in lower interest rates, so this delays the overall peak. And that does make sense since the debt is now lasting longer and the big cash or liquidity injection that we're looking for to renew debt is also delayed. So definitely entertain that because I think that is worth considering. And I was talking to King Solomon Ryan, I don't know if it was a week or 2 back, but I mean, even he was saying, and he had this phrase that I loved, you have to dangle the carrot, meaning for institutions in these crypto cycles, every few years we absolutely have to pop off and have a decent alt season, because that sucks in liquidity from retail investors. If we have a multi-year bear market now, a lot of people are going to leave, not look at crypto, and there's just a huge lack of liquidity for institutions to even manipulate us with. So I'm going to start using that phrase, they gotta dangle the freaking carrot sooner than later. And we've had a crazy year. I mean, what we didn't ask for, World War III looming, we have elite scandals and a certain island we all know, the debt spiral, even alien disclosure with Obama. That's one thing I would actually want is alien disclosure. But what we actually want is a big freaking alt season. And just so you know, comparing ISM and overlaying it with Bitcoin isn't something brand new and it's not some BS. It is really interesting, and even Binance Square has an article sharing it. So we can see overlaying Bitcoin in the white, and then we have the ISM index right below it. And this represents the ISM Manufacturing Index, essentially measuring economic expansion or contraction in the United States. Over 50 is economic growth, usually accompanied by monetary expansion. So we're getting in that phase. And below 50 signals economic contraction or even monetary tightening, and that ended back in December. Bitcoin's bull markets often align with declines in the ISM index. After an ISM peak, Bitcoin typically enters an uptrend. And we could see that in 2013, 2017, and 2020. So I do think that's worth noting, especially if we see ISM climb from that 52, 53 level up to 58 or even 60, like last time, getting over 60. Alright, so let's dive into some recent news super quick. So this happened this month. We had Ripple Prime adding hyperliquid support, expanding institutional access to on-chain liquidity. So Ripple Prime is the institutional prime brokerage platform enabled support for Hyperliquid, a high-performance decentralized derivatives protocol. This allows institutional clients to access on-chain derivatives liquidity while cross-margining DeFi exposure with all other asset classes, supported by Ripple Prime including digital assets, FX, fixed income, OTC or over-the-counter swaps, and cleared derivatives. Clients can now access hyperliquid liquidity while benefiting from a single counterparty relationship, centralized risk management, and consolidated margin across their entire portfolio. So like they say down below, Ripple Prime is positioning themselves as bridging traditional prime brokerage with DeFi. And we also had Jack McDonald share this, the CEO over at Standard Custody, and he is the SVP for stablecoins at Ripple. So we already went over this in the last video, but the RLUSD, or Ripple US Dollar, officially was listed on Binance with full XRP support. Lomax Group Global Marketplace integrating the Ripple US Dollar as collateral. We went into detail and talked about the trillions of dollars involved. We'll actually just go to the official Lomax Group announcement that took place last month just to go over this. Just pointing out that this is a real use case. This marketplace with Lomax Group has already been live, so Lomax Group, or LMAX, saw $8.2 trillion in institutional exchange volume last year. So that's why it's an exciting thing to see the Ripple US Dollar being integrated as a core collateral asset across its institutional trading infrastructure, leveraging the Ripple US Dollar for cross-collateralization and margin efficiencies across spot crypto, perp futures, and CFD trading. And we know the company Ripple providing $150 million in financing support, so they have a vested interest. We had the Ripple US Dollar ranked number 2 on Decrypt's fastest moving stablecoin of 2025. And RWA deposits, or real-world asset deposits, into Aave are up by approximately $400 million over the past quarter, with the majority of the growth driven by the Ripple US Dollar. We also have global trading now available for the Ripple US Dollar on OSL, Asia's leading stablecoin trading and payment platform. We also have the Ripple US Dollar being added or available on Ripio. So this looks like some type of application throughout Latin America. And we had Reese Merrick sharing this. He is Senior Executive Officer, also Managing Director over at Ripple. So we have the company Ripple and UAE-based Zand Bank, ZAND, expanded their existing payment partnership, so there are new initiatives. So we have the Ripple US Dollar being supported within Zand's regulated digital asset custody. There's also direct liquidity solutions between RLUSD and Zand's AED-backed stablecoin, AEDZ, along with potential issuance of AEDZ on the XRP ledger, as they say right there. So this partnership with Zand Bank, based in the UAE, is focused on regulated custody, on-chain liquidity, and local currency stablecoins. It's also important to note that the Zand Bank is licensed by the Central Bank of the UAE. So we're going to keep an eye on the Zand AED, or AEDZ stablecoin, described as the first regulated AED-backed stablecoin on public blockchains. And this AED currency stands for the United Arab Emirates Dirham. And last but not least, make sure you tune into this Friday's X Spaces that I'm going to be hosting with Jared Feldman, who is SVP of Operations over at iTrust. So this is taking place Friday, February 27th at 11 a.m. CST, and we're going to dive into a bunch of topics, including the newly launched treasury accounts. If you have an LLC or a trust, we'll dive into custody, and then we're going to dive into potential lending offerings. Wink wink. So if you have any questions about XRP, be sure to stop by. And lending offerings for assets that don't actually use proof of stake is going to be really cool in the future. And keep in mind, the 2025 contribution limit for a Roth IRA is $7,000, and we have up until April. And for 2026, the limit's increased to $7,500. I don't care what anybody says, I believe a Roth IRA is one of the best investment vehicles to become a millionaire. You can have both. You can have exposure in a boring safe index fund, and you can also have exposure in metals and crypto. So I'll have this linked in the top of the YouTube video description, and the link to iTrust is also the first link in my link tree. I've been with them for 6 years now. Be sure to go check them out. There are no startup fees or monthly fees whatsoever. Put in your email, create an account, check it out, and you can always fund it later. And big thank you to all that hit the like button. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please let me know down in the comments, do you believe we're going to see another multi-year bear market, or is the cycle extended and we do a big V-up out of nowhere? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash the like button and let me know your thoughts down below. You can find all links to my crypto resources, including tools for charting, trading bots, wallets, portfolio trackers, and exclusive discounts right in my link tree in the video description. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.